All right, welcome back, everybody. Bitcoin just not making it easy on anybody after a beautiful pump up to that 10.5K region we've been talking about. Did get a rejection today, back down, but we are above previous resistance, possibly flipped support. So before we jump to any conclusions, let's take a look at our indicators, do the Bitcoin breakdown. This is Crypto Rolly, the crypto watch that never stops. Live technical analysis, price predictions, and trading. Remember, these are my own ideas and opinions on the market, so please do your own research. Trade at your own risk. I am not your financial advisor. Smash that like, hit the subscribe, leave a comment, tick the bell for notifications, all that jazz. Let's take a look at the market. All right, guys. So every time I do the video, we're about break even on the last 24 hours. So before I, do the whole market, let's take a look with the ruler, okay? So this candle here, I'd say about 8% to the upside, and then probably 8% to the downside, right? About 8% to the downside as well. So that's why we're sitting about break even, okay? Actually on BitMEX, the price went down all the way to 8,600. So could have this been just, a long squeeze? Obviously people were feeling pretty bullish. We broke out of that symmetrical triangle. We broke back above 10K. We did have that 10.5 resistance we've talked about, but otherwise it was looking pretty good. And then, BitMEX, that liquidation engine kicks in and just wrecks everyone. No one, this is why I've been scalping more. I have my long-term HODL BTC, for the long run. Not talking about selling, this month or next month. We're talking about next year, whenever. But in the meantime, just taking profits when you can, because, this market just takes them away immediately. So anyways, the volume 4.3 billion. Yes, a lot of volume on both the move up and down. And then you're going to see, skewed percentages here because they all rallied and then they all probably dropped. Crypto Fear and Greed Index, this was last night, 56, moved into the greedy. Let me see what this looks like on the yearly here. So I'll put that above my head. So we almost a new high on the greed, and then we got a bit of a dump. So I'm sure this will update later today. We might dip down back to neutral, maybe even fearful, depending on how this daily closes. All right, so what happened? Let's go down to a lower time frame to even take a look at this. So, this can be adjusted. I had adjusted this on my other chart. I started to use these wicks, and we did break out of that symmetrical triangle that we were looking at potentially, and it was looking good, but we've been looking at 10.5 for some time here, okay? So 10.5 was that resistance box using the previous price action, rejection. So we had these previous peaks here, so we knew that that was going to be a level to beat in order to to call a real bull market or bull run. I've been saying bull run, bull market above 7.88K, and I could argue that, but I think the unanimous decision would be above 10.5, and we got rejected there. However, if we go down to the lower time frames, we have maintained above 9,400, which was, coincidentally the bottom side of that resistance box. And you can see that that resistance box, 9,400, was the previous support level there. And we had resistance, and now we're going to see if we can flip it as support. So, this downtrend from the top, from 20K we've been looking at, down that way. So we did break above it, and now currently just a tad above it or just a tad beneath it. But this, you can see we've been hovering around it. It's not going to be exact. You can adjust these diagonals in many ways, but it does give you kind of a general idea of where we are, on that macro structure. So we'll have to see how this daily closes. Does it close down here beneath 9,400? To me, not only have I had that resistance box drawn there, you could also see a close beneath that would be a body candle close beneath these here. So that would kind of suggest, you know, a downtrend potentially to test a little bit lower. Okay, guys, I'll go over to my Bitstamp chart to show you those levels lower in just one moment. But, you know, just to catch everyone up on what we've been talking about, if we do see lower levels, we want to see this 7,800 hold. That's where we had previous support flipped resistance. We had that resistance here and then a breakout. So if we can see 7,800 hold, that will be, you know, good on the macro, because, you know, look at it, our dailies just real quick. You can see that we topped out on the RSI there. You know, we were high on the, you know, stochastics. We're coming down on my fast stochastic here. I'm not saying we have to come down there, but let's say we do come down there and then can get a bounce on the RSI down here. You know, you're still putting in a higher low. So you could bounce and have a low, a higher low, and continue higher, and, you know, still have a higher low trajectory going up that way. So that's why 7,800 still, to me, pretty good. And then you have this range 72 to 6,800 support box using previous price action as well. And that would look like, you know, we've been talking about the inverse head and shoulders possibility. And, you know, now that we've actually come up to that neckline, before we didn't quite reach the neckline, so we were you know, we were assuming funny looking inverse head and shoulders. But now if we did come down from here and got a bounce, it would actually be a pretty perfect neckline, perfect horizontal 10.5 neckline to beat down the road. So keep this one on your radar if we do fall further, okay? So let's go ahead and go over to the Bitstamp chart real quick. See, you know, some horizontals on the more immediate lower time frames. So, you know, we had that 10.5 horizontal drawn out here on this channel for some time. I always do that, forget to switch over there. Okay, and then so we looked at 9,400, that resistance box on Coinbase, but also, you know, I've had 9,300 here and 9,200 as horizontals of interest. Now, you know, closing beneath 94, like I said, would give us like a low on a daily candle body, so that wouldn't be the best for bulls to see. But, you know, 93, 9,200, these could be levels that we bounce from. You know, maybe we trickle down here, you know, get like a doji indecision reversal and then bounce, you know, from these levels here. Otherwise, you know, we did have this uptrend of support. We could see how that plays out. And people were also looking at a flat line of support around 8,600, about around 8,600. And then I've had these horizontals 84 to 7,800, you know, as areas of interest to the downside. So we'll have to see, do we just, you know, bounce here? Was this just a long squeeze, or do we see some continuation? You know, we'll have to follow up on that. So let's go ahead and take a look at our indicators. Hit that like for me, guys. Let's go to the weekly, see what everything looks like. All right, so taking off my drawing tools. Yeah, I mean, not that's a pretty nasty wick to the upside. Plenty of time left in this week, though, to see how that plays out. So we'll have to follow up on that. The weekly Stokes coming down now. We were looking for that cross up right there, and it looked like we were getting one on that fast moving Stoke. Now back to the downside. So will we get a cross down on my slow moving Stoke to the downside? I think, you know, if you're looking for further downside targets down in this region here, you know, that would line up with a cross down. So if you get a cross down on the weekly, you know, that could be a confirmation that we travel farther. Now, do we bounce here or go much farther? We'll have to find out. But, you know, generally my slow moving Stoke with these settings here, once you get that cross, it's, you know, it's a good confirmation. This fast one will give you, you know, it's more sensitive, so you got a better call there. And we did get the call here. So I was looking for the cross up, cross down, watching my Stokes, okay? You know, on the RSI, we had looked at this, you know, a few days ago. We were looking at this trend line here, how we had broke above it, bounced off of it, and everything was looking good up until just a couple of hours ago. So we'll have to see. You are putting in lower highs still on the weekly RSI. Interesting. Lower highs on the macro price and the RSI. So we need to break that structure, not only on price, but we also need to break that structure on the RSI. All right, so let's look at the moving averages. On the moving averages, we're still above all major moving averages. We had a nice weekly close above the 50 simple. We did get the blue 10 simple crossed above the orange 50 EMA. That's a bullish cross, and looking to cross above the 21 EMA. So that would be another bullish cross. So, right now, still above all these moving averages. I'm not going to panic on a macro level, as like an investor or anything like that. But, if you're scalping and you're taking these trades on lower time frames, you definitely want to be careful, especially after a dump like that. Okay, but to the downside, your support is at 87.57, blue 50 simple, and then your yellow 21 EMA on the weeklies around 83.46. Okay, let's go to our daily. On the daily, looking at the still above all moving averages on your daily as well. So we'll have to see where this daily candle closes. Your support's going to be at 93.53, 93.22. So below 94 was a horizontal we're looking at, but using your moving averages, as long as you maintain above there, I think we're still good. Now you close the daily beneath 93.22, that yellow 21 EMA, then the probability of coming down to 8800, 8811 is where this 50 EMA is, becomes more likely. All right, but as long as you're still closing above, we could see this march on up. All right, our stochastics, your fast moving stoch did cross down after that move there, and your slow moving was still moving up, but hinting at a cross down. So we'll have to see. This is definitely implying downside, and if you get that cross down here, that would be another confirmation. So you get the daily stoch cross down, and then maybe the weekly follows. Okay. Now RSI was something to note with our daily. You can see there is bearish divergence. You can see that you had this peak here and a higher peak while the RSI is declining. And even just with between here and here, this was higher than this one, and these are about even. But I say in general, you can see the uptrend on the highs on the daily, and then the downtrend on the RSI. So bearish divergence combined with that stoch down and that stoch down. Yeah, we could chop around sideways still. I'm not screaming doomsday till we start closing beneath some of the macro indicators that we've been looking at, but on a short-term time frame, I wouldn't jump into any longs immediately. I don't think. I think that there's still definitely an open possibility of coming down to revisit 8800. The downside 8600, something like that. Okay. I do want to say real quick, usually, when you have a breakout from a pattern like this, and then it gets rejected back beneath the breakout point, it's a fake out, and often these continue downwards. Doesn't have to, but often when you have that fake out, it ends up reversing and coming back down. So we do have to be aware of that as well. So need to be a bit cautious. Let's look at our 12-hour. On the 12-hour, still maintaining the 21 EMA at 94 and 91. We'll have that 12-hour will close the same time as the daily does, so we'll have to see what happens there. Your stochastics crossing down on the slow, so you're getting that slow moving stoch cross down on the 12-hour. The daily hinting, the weekly could follow. We have to monitor this because the 12-hour crosses on the stoch, the slow moving for sure, have been pretty good confirmations. You can see that one was a nice one there. Here you had that cross down. There you had that cross up and getting crossed down. So, those have been pretty reliable, and getting crossed back down on your slow or your fast moving stoch there. Getting rejected from your RSI oversold there on the 12-hour too. All right. You know, it's funny is had I done my video yesterday, I skipped out on, it would have been a lot more bullish and I would have been eating my words today. And then, you know, by the time you watch this video, what's going to happen? But it's good to do the TA, even if it's in the hindsight sometimes, because it'll have you more prepared for other, you know, trades down the road, other coins, whatever. Okay. So the 4 hour did get the cross down there on the fast moving. So had you been monitoring that possibly there, you could have been looking for that rejection. We did have that nice rally there from that call right there. Okay, I did make a call in my Discord group. It's free for everyone. The link's down below. I had a call from 9,600. I was targeting 10K. We ended up going all the way to like 10,400. So that was a nice call right there. So nice profit. Locked that in. And unfortunately, we, you know, sold back down, but that's how it goes. So that's why you got to, you know, take profits where you can, guys. The 4 hour slow moving Stoch also crossed down. So there's a lot of things pointing to the possibility of more downside. So I would take it slow. You know, if you're looking for a bounce on the 4 hour, I want to see that 4 hour Stoch, you know, cross back up, at least the fast moving cross back up, get this guy back up. And, you know, we're going to have to see how this 4 hour candle closes here and get back above these moving averages. So you have the 50 EMA at 94.87 currently. So let's see if we close above or below. You have a lot of support there, though. So that's why I'm also not rushing into a long yet. You know, I feel like, and it's the same with the stock market. We see little dips, but it never really breaks the macro uptrend structure since the bottom. And until that macro, you know, higher highs, higher lows, until that breaks, it's hard to, you know, really stay in a short. Each short opportunity is more likely to be a scalp, a short-term play, because macro is still in an uptrend. And until we break, you know, these higher lows, higher highs, even on Bitcoin, you know, it's hard to be too bearish. You know, I think, you know, if we close back beneath the pink 200 simple on the daily, something like that, where, you know, clearly, you know, you're going to have, you could say lower low right here, but at that point, closing below that little dip there, definitely a lower low, say you bounce lower high, you know, that's when you're looking more for long or for shorts. Okay. You know, beneath that daily 8,000, that 200 simple, yeah, something like that would be an opportunity to look more for shorts, even though we're going to have some support down here to keep in mind as well. But up here, I'm definitely not too bearish. As we move down, I become more bearish, you know, as like we could take a look at that Coinbase chart and I could basically show you, you know, it's like one level at a time. But basically, where did it go? There we are. Okay, so you can see that. So yeah, right here, I can't be too bearish. You lose this, you know, low, higher low, lose that, I'm going to become more bearish. You lose this, increasingly bearish. Below here, I am just not, I don't know, I'm not excited about Bitcoin. Here, I don't know if I'll still own Bitcoin. You know what I mean? It's just the farther we go. Because to me, just on the macro, it looks like a larger consolidation, a large sideways consolidation. It looks like, you know, sideways consolidation between this resistance box and this support box. So in here, you know, above here, very bullish. In here, you know, this could just be more sideways. Below here, I'm kind of worried. Lose this low, higher low, and lose that, guys. I mean, I don't know how much farther could we drop, right? So that's kind of how I'm looking at it on the macro. All right, I think that's pretty much it for me today. You know, a lot can happen between now and tomorrow, so I just wanted to catch everybody up on what we were looking at because we did have quite the move yesterday and today. I hope that was helpful in any way. So keep coming back. We'll see you next time. Rolly roll.